everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be installing an inline water filter for my refrigerator because I happen to have a Samsung French door refrigerator that's giving me a lot of problems with my ice maker, and it's giving me a lot of problems with the filtered drinking water system because the Samsung filter design keeps freezing up, and I guess it's a known problem. So we're just going to go ahead and bypass that and install an inline filter down in my basement coming off the water line. So without further ado, let's jump in and let's take a closer look at the Aqua Crest inline water filter for your refrigerator. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about a new Aqua Crest inline water filter for your refrigerator. So for any of you that happen to have a refrigerator that has the filtered drinking water, your refrigerator typically has a filter. Now I happen to have a Samsung 4-door French door refrigerator. And I think everyone pretty much knows by now that Samsung refrigerators are really nice looking. They have a lot of great technology in them, but they do tend to have a lot of issues surrounding the ice makers and the water filter. So for example, I'm going to put a picture up over here of my Samsung 4-door refrigerator. And when you open up the top two doors, there's a little circle at the bottom where you put your filter. And I'll put a picture up here of where that circle is. Now, the problem is my Samsung refrigerator filter kept freezing and I was getting a lot of ice buildup in the refrigerator, which was stopping my refrigerator from allowing water to flow. But the problem I had is my Samsung filter actually cracked due to expansion from the ice buildup inside, and I ended up with a pretty bad water leak. And I'm referring to the filter that you push in and then you kind of turn it quarter of the way to lock it in place. When you do that, it activates like a trigger system in the back of the filter housing that allows the water to flow through the filter. However, if you're running into issues with yours, if you just take out your filter, your water will still flow, it just won't be filtered. So that's basically what I had to do. But if you look it up online, there is a lot of information out there that talks about the Samsung refrigerator filter location design, because what happens, it's in a prime spot for a lot of cold air to hit that filter, and that's why it tends to freeze up and cause problems. So I decided to pull that filter out and not use it anymore. But we still want to have filtered water going through the fridge, which is why I bought this Aqua Crest inline water filter. Now you can put this Aqua Crest inline water filter on any refrigerator. I was just giving you an example of why I was using this, even though I have a Samsung refrigerator that has a built-in filter system. I'm not using the built-in filter system because it's faulty. I'm going to be using this one. Now this can be installed and mounted on the back of your refrigerator if you have room, but in my case, my refrigerator is a counter depth refrigerator, so when I push the refrigerator back, I don't have enough room to mount this on the back of the fridge. So what I'm going to be doing is installing this Aqua Crest inline water filter down in my basement so that it's being filtered before it gets to the fridge. And this way I can easily change it by just going into my basement and swapping out the filters as needed. And it does tell you right here that the recommended replacement is every 5 years or 5,000 gallons. Now, do I think you should wait 5 years, or are you actually going to measure how many gallons you're using? Probably not. But for the very inexpensive cost of this filter, I'd honestly say change it every year or every 2 years or whatever you want to do. But it does have compression fittings on either side of the filter, and it's still wrapped in plastic. I'll take that plastic off here in a minute. And there is a flow arrow here that tells you how to install this with the water flowing in a specific direction. So being that the arrow right now is facing to the left, I need my supply line water to come over here so that the water comes through the filter and it comes out this side to my refrigerator. So make sure you pay close attention to that flow arrow because you have to install this in a specific orientation. Now it doesn't matter if this is vertical or sideways or on an angle, it doesn't matter as long as the flow of the water is going with the flow of that arrow. This kit also comes with a full instruction guide on how to install it. It gives you a couple different options on what to do and how to install it. So you can look at that later if you'd like. It does have a bag here that has some zip ties that you can use for mounting it. It does have 4 of these 3M stick-on plates. So if you're going to use the zip ties, you're going to basically stick these plates right here, maybe on the back of your refrigerator, sort of like that. And then you're going to take your filter and set it in between, and then you're going to take your zip ties and go through these little tabs right here, and you're basically just going to zip tie it in place. So that's what those are for. I don't know if I'll be using that or not. Most likely what I'll be using is this mount. So this mount here comes with a screw. You're going to put the screw through the middle, and then I'll probably be screwing this into the ceiling of my basement right below where my refrigerator is. And then this will mount like that. So pretty simple. So I like that this kit comes with a couple different mounting options. It does come with an extension of tubing here. This is a 1/4 inch thick, and the ends are already pre-measured to around 3/4 of an inch right here. So you see that little black line? That's pretty much measured at about 3/4 of an inch, so that when you're pushing that tube into that compression fitting here, think of this compression fitting here like a shark bite. All you have to do is push the hose in up to where that little black line kind of disappears behind that ring, and then tug on it and it locks itself in place. Now to get the hose back out, you're going to take either your fingers or maybe like a little set of pliers and just go on either side of this ring and push down, and that will release the hose so that you could pull it out. Now if you're installing this right on the back of your refrigerator, you're going to have your supply line that's going to come in on this side over here, because remember, look at the arrow, we need the water coming in on this side. So depending on what fitting you have on your supply line, whether it's just a 1/4 inch hose or if it has more of like a braided threaded collar on it, that's where these little clips come in. So let me just say this again. If you don't have any kind of threaded collars on the hoses already, you could just take your 1/4 inch tubing or 1/4 inch copper tubing and just slide it in there up to about 3/4 of an inch, and by a compression lock, it locks it in place, and that's it. But if you want to maybe create a threaded disconnect, that's where these come into place. And basically how this works, let me just pull this out of the bag. Okay, now let's just say that you have some tubing like this, and you didn't want to put that in there. You wanted to use these. On this side here, this piece right here, this 1/4 inch hose right here, you're just going to slide that into that hole and lock it in place. This side over here is where you're going to take your collar like this with the threaded area here facing away from the hose. You're going to slide your hose through the back like that, okay? Then you're going to slide on this sleeve just like that. Push it on a little bit further. I'm trying to do this behind the camera, sorry. And then you're going to take this joint here that has a little flat tip like that and slide that into your hose just like that. This way, remember, this side right here, compression locks into the filter. Now this way, when you stick this portion right here into that piece right there, that crush sleeve is what locks it in place when you thread this on just like that. So again, this inline filter comes with multiple ways of how to hook this up. It just depends on whether or not you currently have some type of braided hose that has the twist collar lock right there, or if you just want to just take your hose and stick it in and lock it in that way. Either way works, it's good to go. So let me go ahead and cut my water line down in my basement, and let me go ahead and get this hooked up, and I'll come back and show you what I did and what it looks like. So I'll be right back in a minute. Okay, so here we are. We're in my basement. I'm just organizing my basement, so don't mind all the clutter. But this is where my water line comes into my hot water tank, and this is where my water line originally taps into for my refrigerator. So what I did was I came up to here and kind of just took a guesstimate measurement, and I cut the copper line right here, and then I mounted that plastic strap to the ceiling, and then I put my filter in place like that, and I just slid my 1/4 inch copper line into this side here and locked it in. And then this line here is the outline. It comes out of the filter and then goes up to my kitchen where my fridge is. So if you look here, everything's good, everything's connected, there's no leaks. I did go ahead and use the zip ties through the actual bracket around the filter just so it held it on there a little bit tighter, but overall it's on there pretty good and it's not going anywhere. So it's all good and it's all hooked up and it works. If I ever need to change this filter, All I have to do is press in that little tab right there, push it in, and then this pipe will pop out. Do the same thing on this side, push that little white tab in. That 1/4 inch hose pops out there, replace my filter, plug in my hoses, and I'm good to go. So far, everything's good and everything's working, and I'm pretty happy with this. Okay, so we're all done. So the installation was pretty simple and easy. It works like a charm. Everything works. The filter works. I checked the refrigerator upstairs and the water flow is working fine. As soon as you use it for the first time, it's going to be purging out some of the air, so it's going to kind of be spatting out some water. But once you let it run a couple times, it'll start working perfectly fine. So at the end of the day, my overall impressions of the Aqua Crest inline water filter for your refrigerator, I definitely give it a thumbs up and give it a go. It works great. It comes with multiple fittings depending on which water line you're using to hook up the filter, but it's pretty simple and easy to hook up, and it works like a charm. So for any of you out there that happen to have a refrigerator that takes a water filter, or even if it doesn't take a water filter and you want to add an inline water filter, or in my case, you happen to have a Samsung refrigerator that's giving you a lot of problems, this inline water filter might be the way to go. But that's going to be it for today's video. I hope this video helps some of you out. Do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button and like this video. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments section, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And also do me a favor, subscribe to the channel because it definitely helps me out and I greatly appreciate it. So that's it. I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you. Thank you. I truly appreciate you all. And as always, see you in the next video.